Praise the Lord and welcome to BibleStudyMinistry.com. Today we want to take a quick study of Proverbs chapter 29. Today is a Sabbath day, and it's the 29th of June, so I wanted to just do what I normally do by reading a proverb. I always do this in the morning, where I read a proverb that corresponds with whatever day of the month it is. So today's the 29th, reading the 29th proverb. And hopefully you'll be edified by it as I was, and some of the things that are written in this particular proverb will help you out, as they always do for everybody that's got an ear to hear. So let's go ahead and begin. Well, verse 1 starts out, it reads, "He that being often reproved harden his neck shall suddenly be destroyed, and that without remedy." So it starts out with a real big bang. If you often being corrected all the time, and you keep getting corrected, and you keep getting corrected, you are going to harden your neck, which means get a stiff mind, get upset, and stop taking correction. You're going to suddenly be destroyed, and the destruction that's going to come on you is going to be one that has no remedy. And there's a lot of things that you can think about, but we can go back to early on in the Bible. Cain, he had this bad attitude towards his brother, and the Lord was trying to reprove him, correct him, and tell him how to do better. But he hardened his neck, and then finally he was destroyed, and his destruction led to him to killing his brother, and there was no remedy for it after that. You're a marked man. People get instructions and wisdom. Don't do this, don't do that. Don't, first of all, have premarital sex. And then if you're going to have premarital sex, don't have unprotected sex. But people cleanly ignore this, and then they get hit with something big like HIV or AIDS, or they get hit with something big like a baby that they don't have provisions to take care of. And there's no remedy for that besides you taking up and drinking the cup of coffee that you pour for yourself, no matter how bitter it is. Verse 2, "When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked bear rule, the people mourn." Now, this goes without saying. When there's a wise, righteous man ruling a nation, everybody's happy. When Solomon was young and he was ruling over Israel, everybody was happy. Even the Queen of Sheba came up and said, "I can't believe how happy every worker in your organization is. The whole country seems pleased." But when you get a wicked ruler, everybody is mourning. They're sad. People are dying. People can't eat, And in a country like the United States where I live, you get a ruler, but half the country's against him. Then when he gets another ruler, when the other half gets their ruler in, half the country's against him, so they can never really be good. But if he's a righteous ruler, people are going to be happy for the most part. Verse 3 here says, "Whoso loveth wisdom rejoiceth his father, but he that keepeth company with harlots spendeth his substance. The king by judgment establisheth the land, but he that receiveth gifts overthrows it." So these are two very common things that we see all around the world. When you are the son or daughter of your parents and you love wisdom, your parents are going to rejoice. It's just natural. And wisdom is basically the parents telling you how to stay out of trouble, how to do the right things to succeed. And if you love it, they're going to love you because they know that you're not going to fall in all these pitfalls that lay out in life that unguided people fall into. But if you keep company with harlots, you spend all your time in strip clubs, or all your time trying to pick up prostitutes, or all your time with just vain people, then you're going to spend all of your money. It's just like the prodigal son went out and started living life, what he thought was life, and spent all his money and was eating the pig's food. And he realized that if he just go home and humble himself, that he would be have a decent job in his father's house, and that's what he did. So you have to be mindful of these things. Love wisdom from your parents, especially if you have wise and caring and loving parents, and watch the company you keep. In verse 4 speaks about a king establishing the land. If he does it by good judgment, he will establish the land. But if he's out here taking bribes, you already know what kind of land he has, and that kind of land will be overthrown once the people get wind of it. Continuing at verse 5, it reads, "A man that flattereth his neighbor spreadeth a net for his feet." And verse 6 says, "In the transgression of an evil man there is a snare, but the righteous does sing and rejoice." So a man that's flattering his neighbor, it's usually people that flatter people, especially excessive flatter. There's a difference in there's a difference in healthy compliment, but when you are flattering, usually people are trying to get something from them. So you have to be conscious of that when people are excessively paying you compliments. And in the sin or in the transgression of an evil man, there is a snare, but the righteous does sing and rejoice. So when you sin, there's usually going to be a repercussion or something that's going to be a backlash of that. People call that karma. When you do bad things to people, sometimes things come back around. Nope, what it is a snare. It means that you have to pay for what you've done. In the spirit world, the realm of spirits, you're going to have to pay for what you've done. Even if you say, man, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have did that, there's going to be a snare. There's going to be some kind of repercussion. Moving right along, we're at verse 7, and it says, "The righteous consider the cause of the poor, but the wicked regard it not to know it." And verse 8 reads, "Scornful men bring a city into a snare, but wise men turn away wrath." And so verse 7 really needs no breaking down, but it says the righteous considers the cause of the poor. If you're righteous, you're going to think about how did these people get this poor. I drove in Chicago. We have a little lower area called Wacker Drive. They may have cleaned it up now. I haven't been in the city in that area in a while, but excuse me, they used to drive by there. I used to drive by there and see people living outside, and Chicago 20-degree low weather, and I would wonder, how did they get to that point in their life where they were living under a highway pass? So the righteous consider these things, and because they consider it, because they want to know how they can help. But the wicked, they don't care. They say things like, "I'm glad it ain't me out there asking for change," and that's not the road you want to take when you're dealing with the poor. These are your brothers, these are your sisters that have obviously fell on very hard times, and for the most part don't know how to get out of it, or they would. So this is a time to have some compassion. And then verse 8 says, "Scornful men bring a city to a snare, but wise men turn away wrath." This is all about being in control, knowing how to pacify situations so that you can reason out of it together with the other person. Let's go to verse 9. "If a wise man contended with a foolish man, whether he rage or laugh, there is no rest." Verse 10 says, "The bloodthirsty hate the upright, but the just seeks his soul." So, if a wise man contends, if he's arguing there with a foolish man, whether he gets real angry or whether he laughs, either way, there will be no rest for him, because you're dealing with a foolish man. And I've been in those situations where you're dealing with someone who is very foolish, and you don't want to contend with them. You have to. That's why it's very, very. I've been blessed to be able to discern the spirit, and as soon as I see that, I know that you are just playing around. I have nothing else to say. But the bloodthirsty hate the upright. So you gotta understand, not to appear too righteous sometimes. Just be as upright as you can, because bloodthirsty people hate to see other people doing good. There was a rapper, DMX, he had one line where he says he knew what he was doing every day that he was doing it, and when he saw people having a good time, he was looking to ruin it. And that was one of my favorite lines, but it hit me when I read the Proverbs, because it says people who are down on their luck and they're bloodthirsty and they're violent, they're looking to do some evil to those who are upright and just. Verse 11 says, "A fool utters all his mind, but a wise man keepeth it in till afterwards. You know, a fool gonna say, I can't control it. I'm about to bust open. I'm gonna tell her, I'm gonna tell him what I really feel about him. And then the man that she's about to tell off, or the person that he's about to tell off, and went back and considered what the point was, and before they can come back and apologize, she didn't let him or her have it and told all her mind. But the wise man keeps it in until afterwards, and he says, "Okay, I'll let them talk, and then I'll make my response." So you don't want to be foolish, uttering everything that's in your mind. You want to be wise and listen. Verse 12 says, "If a ruler hearkens to lies, all his servants are wicked." And verse 13 says, "The poor and the deceitful man meet together. The Lord lighten both of their eyes." So a ruler, if a ruler is listening to lies, then obviously everybody around him that's telling him these lies, which is his cabinet, his servants, his assistants, are wicked because they lying. They are telling him lies, and he's listening to them. Point blank, verse 13, "The poor and the deceitful," the poor man and the deceitful man, they come in when they get together, the Lord lightens both of their eyes. So when he gets out of lying and he gets out of being poor, it's the Lord that opened his eyes. Let's take a look at verse 14. It says, "The king that faithfully judged the poor, his throne shall be established forever." This is why Jesus' throne is going to be established forever. It's because he faithfully and righteously judged the poor. But when you have these flesh, mankind kings that come in and they don't have no compassion on the poor, their thrones get uprooted. Because the people have had enough of poor people start to rob the rich people, and the whole country is in chaos. Verse 15 says, "The rod and reproof give wisdom, but a child left to himself brings his mother to shame." So you have to correct your children. And sometimes you might have to use a rod, a belt, or whatever you have to use. But when you see a child that talks to adults any type of way he wants, or talks to law enforcement any type of way he wants, you know that was a child left to himself growing up, and his mother will be ashamed when they close those gates on him and say life in prison. Verse 16 says, "When the wicked are multiplied, transgression increases, but the righteous shall see their fall." And verse 17 says, "Correct thy son, and he shall give thee rest. Yeah, he shall give delight unto thy soul." So this is very simple mathematics here. When the wicked are multiplying, they're wicked, so they're already transgressing or sinning or breaking commandments, laws. It doesn't matter if it's God's laws, or if it's man's laws. The wicked are breaking laws. So when the wicked increase, so will the transgressions. But the righteous got to stay the course, and they're going to see their fall. Just like it says in Psalm 58, the very last verse in Psalm 58. Then the righteous will know that there is a God who judges. And verse 17 finishes off again, repeating what verse 15 was speaking of. "Correct thy son, and he shall give thee rest, and he shall give delight unto thy soul." When you correct him while he's young, he's going to understand and start to learn what's good and what's bad, and what's right and what's wrong, and follow those. But you got to correct him. Verse 18 says, "Where there is no vision, the people perish, but he that keepeth the law, happy is he." And verse 19 says, "A servant will not be corrected by words, for though he understand, he will not answer." So verse 18 is very popular. A lot of people know this one. It says, "Where there's no vision, the people perish." Where you can't see the outlay of where you're going, the people are going to perish. But nobody rarely quotes the latter half of this verse where it says, "But he that keepeth the law, happy is he." He is happy. So we have to have vision when you take on something. You take on even Bible study. You have to have the big vision of what's really going on, so that you are in the spirit where you're not going to perish, where you're going to be able to thrive, because you see the bigger picture here. The bigger picture here is not just being a good person. It's not just saving your village. It's saving this whole earth through Jesus Christ. Now, verse 19 says, "A servant will not be corrected by words, for though he understand, he will not answer. Look at verse 20. It says, seest thou a man that is hasty in his words? There is more hope of a fool than of him. And verse 21 says, he that delicately bringeth up his servant from a child shall have him become his son at length. So these are very strong verses. If you are, listening to somebody and you already ready to respond, it means you're hasty with your words. There's more hope for a fool than you. So really think about that and take the time to think if you're one of those type of persons that is ready to talk very fast without listening. And then verse 21 says, he that delicately brings up his servant from a child shall have him become his son at length. So this is when you are delicate and you're teaching and you're raising up someone who is a servant. It's really not your son, but you bring him up like it's just your own child. You're going to have him be a son at length. And that's, you see this all the time, professional basketball players who unfortunately didn't have fathers, but they had a male figure there that was there to guide them and make sure that they didn't get hit by some of these speed bumps. And then eventually that man becomes like a father figure to the son, and he has him like a son at length. He takes care of him once he's made it to the big times. And this is what the Bible's talking about there. Okay, we're winding down here. Verse 22, it says, an angry man stirs up strife, and a furious man abounds in transgression. So if you're angry, if you're one of those people that's always got an angry spirit on you, angry vibration, then you are always looking up to stir up some strife because you want to see people just like you. You want to see other people angry. You want to see fights. You want to see arguments and riffraff. So angry man will always stir up strife, and a furious man is going to abound in transgression. Anybody that's always furious, you got nowhere to go besides breaking some commandments, namely probably thou shalt not kill. And then verse 23 says, a man's pride shall bring him low, but honor shall uphold the humble in spirit. So if you have a lot of pride, you're going to be brought low. But if you have humble spirit, that's where you're going to get your honor from. Verse 24 says, whoso partner with a thief hates his own soul or hers, and he heareth cursing and berates it not. He hears all the stuff that thieves and that sinful people go through, but he doesn't listen to it. So we got to be mindful of these things. If man brings a snare, but whoso putteth his trust in the Lord shall be safe. And verse 26 says, many seek the ruler's favor, but every man's judgment comes from the Lord. The fear of man brings a snare. You shouldn't be fearing man. The only reason you should fear man is when he approaches you and says, I've come in the name of the Lord to kill you. And we shouldn't fear that in these days because it's very rarely anybody going to say that. But I'm talking back in the day when David or somebody came up on somebody, King David that is, or Samuel walked up on you, then you knew that maybe you better fear that man at that time because he's coming in the name of the Lord. However, in our days today, there's probably nobody going to kill in the name of the Lord. What you're going to have is the Lord wants you killed by another man. He's going to have somebody kill you. And they're not going to be righteous at all. They're just going to be a wicked person that goes ahead and maybe just shoots in the crowd and you get hit. And that's the way it happens. The Lord doesn't pick righteous people to go do evil work. He picked a thief to be the money holder that will betray him. So don't fear man and put all your trust in the Lord, and that's how you're going to stay safe. Many seek the ruler's favor, but every man's judgment comes from the Lord. So when you make a judgment, the Lord has done that to you. There's a story in the Bible where he sent an evil spirit to deceive the king so he can kill him. So sometimes if the Lord wants you taken care of, he's going to send a spirit to take care of your thoughts so that you have a bad judgment. So be mindful of all the things the Lord has, all the power he has. Last verse, it says, an unjust man is an abomination to the just, and he that is upright in the way is an abomination to the wicked. So it's the same relationship. It's like when if you're a good person and you see the wickedness going on, and you see a wicked man, rape a woman and mutilate her, you're looking at him with just the abomination. Like, Why are you on the earth? Why did you even get the breath of life? What did you do to yourself to become that wicked? So the same disdain and the same way you look at the wicked is the same way the wicked man looks at the just man. Well, who are you? Why are you so righteous? I should kill you right now. So you have to understand that. So that's why I try not to look too righteous, because I know that the wicked don't like the righteous. And so you want to be mindful of that. The unjust man is an abomination to the just, and he that is upright in his way is an abomination to the wicked. So if you know that the unrighteous don't like you as much as you don't like the unrighteous, then you appear in front of them a little bit less, just to know that you can pull them out. But if you can't pull them out, then it's over. I hope you enjoyed this Bible study of Proverbs chapter 29. If you have any questions regarding it or any other subjects in the Bible, you can contact us at our website by visiting BibleStudyMinistry.com/contact and signing up with our newsletter once you're there. Also, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. We would love to have more videos sent to you so that you can keep up with everything that we have and that we're doing, and some of the lessons that we have. Bless you, and we'll see you next time.